You are listening to the QSR Web Podcast. At the Restaurant Franchising and Innovation Summit, executives from leading brands will share their success stories of the numerous ways they have innovated to grow their franchises. Attendees will gain insight and inspiration to help them be more progressive in every facet of their businesses. Register today at franchisinginnovation.com.
Hello and welcome back to the QSR Web Podcast. I'm QSR Web and Pizza Marketplace editor Shelley Whitehead, and we have some really fun subjects to jump into on today's show, including delving into the fine art of the marijuana-related QSR by one of that category's most veteran players, Cheba Hut, and its Chief Relationship Officer, Seth Larson, we'll be talking to in a few minutes. We promise not to disappoint. But first, we're going to roll into the fun and sometimes funky world of food trucks as food truck operator-editor Elliot Maris stops his reporting duties for a few minutes to tell us where that business is heading in the year ahead. Welcome, Elliot. How has the past year been for the food truck industry, and what do you think are the biggest factors that will be affecting this industry in the next 12 months?
Oh, the main observation I have is it continues to grow. More and more people are getting into running food trucks. It's an inducement for many aspiring chefs to have their own food truck. They realize that they can afford to have a food truck a lot more easily than starting a brick and mortar restaurant. So it continues to be attractive. At the same time, one of the other driving trends I see is the fact that this country's cuisine has just become so much more diverse, and the consumer in general is just so much more accepting of so many different types of cuisines that continues to be a driver for people. But on a more serious note, one of the most challenging aspects that people face when they get into the food truck business is meeting local regulations, which can be very restrictive. But on a positive note, in the past year, I've noticed that more and more municipalities all over the country are taking a much more cooperative approach to food trucks. Instead of just banning them outright or enacting very strict rules, although that still does exist in some areas, they're becoming a lot more receptive and accepting of food trucks because they realize that people like food trucks. And in many cases, food trucks are serving as a way to help make a commercial district more desirable. And that's in the economic interest of most municipalities, especially if they're trying to revive certain areas. Food trucks have been a great enticement for arts and craft festivals, and they just provide such a variety of food options for people. So it's good to see that so many municipalities are coming around to seeing the benefits of food trucks.
It's kind of a symbiotic relationship. They kind of feed each other. You know, I was reading some of your top stories of the last year and saw that your audience really gravitated toward the story on menu trends for the rolling restaurants that you cover. Some of those surprised me. What's hot on wheels these days?
Well, the simple answer to that, Shelley, is variety. The customer's taste today is so diverse, partially because of food trucks. Food trucks make it easier for people to become exposed to more different types of food. And because of the quality of so many of these food trucks, many people are realizing they like different types of cuisines that they may not have normally gravitated towards. So, as far as trends, boy, everything's out there. I'll try to get a little specific. Southern comfort type food, that continues to be very popular. We're seeing some of that appear in some of the northernmost climates that you might not expect it. Mexican, of course, is still strong, as are other Latin types of cultures such as Cuban, Puerto Rican, Peruvian, and Chilean. Barbecue has moved beyond the South. It's now even in the Northwest, where it didn't exist prior to maybe a year ago. The traditional standbys of Italian and Chinese, they remain very popular. Middle Eastern fare is coming on strong. This includes cuisines from Lebanon, Egypt, Israel, Syria, and many others. Indian, of course, continues to be very popular. And moving to more of an ingredient orientation, anything functional or health related, that continues to grow as people are becoming increasingly health conscious.
So fun to cover. What an innovative, business sector. There's so much going on and so many cool ideas. And I also understand in your top stories this past year, the basic business management stories were really high on the list for your readers. What kind of things does that tell you about these food truck operators?
Well, Shelley, it wasn't just in the past year that the business management stories tended to dominate reader interest. That's been the case since we started Food Truck Operator in 2016. And I think that's going to continue to be the case for quite a while, because the impetus for most people getting into food trucks today is from a culinary standpoint. Most of the entrepreneurs are driven by the desire to create great tasting food and to share it. Many of them are professional chefs getting into business for themselves. Many are aspiring chefs. But because their motivation is of a culinary bent, many of these people do not have a strong business background, which is why we see topics like how to write a budget and how to have a good marketing plan and how to hire people. Those are so well read, because that's where the food truck operator in general tends to need the most help.
Kind of sounds like an opportunity for somebody, some wise business person, to put together some sort of organization that they could tap into. But when you talk about complex things, I think of technology and equipment innovation, and I'm just wondering, what are some of the big areas in that for food truck operators?
Yeah.
Because they have very specific concerns.
Yeah. Technology is critical everywhere today for any type of business. I just spent some time this week at what was called the Consumer Electronics Show. It's now called the CES Show. For food trucks, I think one of the biggest opportunities we're seeing from a technology standpoint is more and more point of sale systems are coming on the market. We're seeing more of them introduced from many manufacturers with more capabilities, and some of them can even accept cryptocurrencies. Also, I think one of the greatest opportunities that I've come across in the last year is the self-serve kiosk on the food truck. Self-serve kiosks are growing very rapidly in restaurants, quick-serve restaurants and fast casual restaurants. McDonald's has gotten into it and given it a lot of visibility. But there have been some that have been specifically designed for food trucks, and they have shown a great deal of promise. When I think about it, the self-serve kiosk actually makes more sense for a food truck even than it does for a restaurant, because with a food truck, when you have a big event, the time that it takes for the customer to wait for their order to be taken, it's very critical. When you have a self-order kiosk there, you don't have to have an employee taking the order. So I think it's got a lot of promise. And then moving to the food preparation side of things, as far as new technology, there's a lot more equipment out there that can heat food a lot faster, a lot more powerful ovens, and many of them are being designed to fit into much smaller areas, which is great for food trucks. So there's a trend in that area as well.
Wow. Well, I also wonder, you're a reporter just like me. What was your favorite story to cover last year?
Well, and on one hand, Sterling, that's very easy to answer. It's just that there wasn't one. there were actually four that all fit into one category, and that is the way that the food trucks played an important role in responding to natural disasters. Oh boy, that is just such an incredible thing to be a part of. And I was lucky to have a chance to meet some of these people over the phone and via email and get their stories. But we had most recently these record fires in California and Southern California.
Yeah.
Earlier in the year we had mudslides in Southern California.
Yeah.
Then we had Hurricane Michael on the Florida Panhandle, and then we had Hurricane Florence in the Carolinas. In every single one of these cases, food truck operators did not hesitate for 1 minute to get out there and do what they could to feed people, feed the first responders, to feed the people who were displaced. I talked to so many people, Shelley, that just drove. Some of them drove great distances. Many of them worked hours and hours and hours on end to feed people, all for free. They invested thousands of dollars without hesitating to think about it. It was just, for me, it was just so personally moving to see the kind of response that the food truck operators had, the sense of social responsibility. I just couldn't be, I just feel so lucky to have the opportunity to be working with these people and working in their industry. There are so many great people out there in this industry.
That's really interesting because so many of the brands, that have brick and mortar stores there are left non-functional because they've been hit by the hurricane or the fires or whatever catastrophe has swept in. So they really are providing an amazing service, and that's so important to the community as a whole when they're stricken by something like that.
Yes, and I think that might also be playing into the willingness of more local governments to be a little bit more flexible in their food truck rules, because they're realizing how important the food trucks are when there is some kind of an emergency need for food.
What a great industry. Elliot, thanks so much for dropping in to give us the latest on food trucks. I love the beat. I really appreciate it. And I would also appreciate it if our audience would come right back right after this break to listen to our next guest,
Cheba Hut Chief Relationship Officer Seth Larson.
Many of the fastest growing and most successful chains in the restaurant industry are embracing innovation throughout their operations. These forward-thinking brands are constantly looking for the next innovation, new technologies, new menu items, new marketing tactics, new training programs, etc., that will propel them to even greater heights. Come and learn these innovations at the Restaurant Franchising and Innovation Summit. Register today at franchisinginnovation.com.
And we're back. And to our restaurant exec listeners, please just loosen your ties and kick off the heels while we welcome something a little different from your traditional restaurant brand into the house, Cheba Hut. This 20-year-old limited service brand has been very much on the burning edge of marijuana-related food service sector, and regardless of your beliefs about pot, as a restaurateur, you are likely quite interested in this little pot of gold, known as cannabis-connected food service. To that end, today with us is Cheba Hut Chief Relationship Officer Seth Larson, here to answer as many questions as we can jam into about 15 minutes. Beginning, Seth, with your current store count, franchises, and your presence geographically.
Absolutely. Shelley, thank you for having me today. Like you mentioned, we are a toasted sandwich, fast casual concept. We do have bars at most of our locations, and we've been doing business since 1998. We have 9 company stores and 13 franchised units currently operating in 7 states, mostly in the Southwest, but also in Wisconsin and Oregon. We have 3 more stores that are due to be open by the end of this month, so it's been a busy month. We'll have 25 total, which is it's a big milestone for us. We also have 3 store deals signed for Atlanta, as well as the Inland Empire in California, and a few more in the works for 2019. We play well in college markets, and but also have no problem doing business in cities or select suburbia.
Wow. I think many may assume that your brand is all about the ganja, with only a passing interest in the sandwiches as the focus of your menu, but that's really not the case, is it?
No, great question too. At the core, we're foodies. We're all food driven. We love great food. If your food is no good and your service sucks, no one's coming back, no matter how good your theme is. So that's something that we recognized a long time ago. We almost have to go above and beyond what other concepts have to kind of get over those preconceived notions, especially in new markets that we enter. So our game is strong. Our goal is to make sure that everyone that comes in feels super comfortable, whether you're a college student, a stoner, a professional, a young family, a little bit older. We're an inclusive brand, and we want everyone to feel what we're throwing down, and hopefully they are, and there's plenty of times throughout a day at any one of our shops where, people don't put 2 and 2 together. They just know that they come in, they get great food, warm, genuine service, and it's at a fair price. And that's why they keep coming back. So, we're definitely food driven. We focus on the food, the service, and the atmosphere. We're not so different from other fast casual brands. We're just subtly flipping the bird to the man. You don't get to our super healthy AUVs by ostracizing chunks of society and making people feel uncomfortable. So, we're an inclusive brand, and we want everyone to feel welcome. And I think we've done a good job of that over the last 20 years.
So if you had to describe your Mr. and Ms. Cheba Hut, who your target customer is through your marketing and your brand aesthetics and the like, tell us about that person.
Absolutely. We pride ourselves on really owning that 18 to 40-year-old demographic. A lot of brands are shooting for that demographic. We feel like we truly do own it. We also own group dining. A lot of other sandwich concepts out there, you go solo and you try to get out of there as fast as possible. We want groups of people coming, and we want them to stay for a little bit longer than they typically would at a fast casual. There's 2 people that drive group dining decisions: people with dietary restrictions, and it's people that want to drink alcohol. And luckily, we're in the position where we can cater to both. Our brand, it lends itself to music and art. All of our stores have murals done by local artists. Anytime we have a chance to partner up with any music event, that's important. And those, art and music speak loudly to that 18 to 40-year-old demographic. So that's a really good thing, and a natural relationship. We don't do print ads. We don't do traditional advertising. Founder Scott Jennings is big on $5 day, where he just hands out $5 bills to people in line. We don't discount. We're of the thought process that we'd rather give it away than discount. We don't want our brand driven by couponing like you see with a lot of other brands out there. And I think consumers are sharp these days, and they can sniff out an imposter pretty quick. So, staying true to our founding principles is super important. We're going to continue that as we grow.
Do you work on pairing sandwiches with some of your booze options, or? Absolutely.
It is a little bit different, but it's not so different. So when we first started incorporating bars into what we do was back in 2004. And in all honesty, it was mainly a perk for our employees. We weren't really counting on it to drive a ton of sales. Fast forward 10 or 15 years later, and it accounts for some serious sales. However, even at our busiest bars at our shops, it still only accounts for 20% of our sales. So, we're always going to be sandwich driven first, not the other way around. It's always going to be a sandwich shop with a bar, not a bar with a sandwich shop. And again, we want people to stay longer, and the bar helps with that. We've always prided ourselves on being the place to start your night. So you come in, you grab 2 beers, a little bit of food, and then you move on to the next place of the evening. So, we want to be the place to go before you go. We're not the concept that does beer pairings. We're a sandwich shop, but we're knowledgeable. And, you can tell by our beer lineup and our beer partners, as well as all of our liquor partners, that, we take a lot of pride in who we partner with and what we're choosing to serve. So, the fact of the matter is too, people their habits have changed, their dining habits. We would love if every customer came in and ordered a 12-inch sandwich, chips, and a drink. But that's just not reality. Maybe they come in with their buddy, they each order a 4-inch sandwich, they split an order of pretzel nuggets, grab a beer or two, and that's how people are dining now. So, we don't care how they come in and patronize our business. As long as they're coming, we're stoked with that. But people have definitely changed the way that they eat. And we're not driven by the times. We're kind of trendsetters. We're not trend followers. So I think we've done a good job there and have recognized that early on.
I was going to say, so, you were kind of out there in the beginning, but now the floodgates have really opened for marijuana-associated restaurants. And I wonder, how does Cheba Hut fit in the picture as it is today and really make a place for itself long-term for success?
Absolutely. Great question, Shelley. It is a great time to be alive. We've talked about riding the green wave all the time. We talk about it every day. And the fact of the matter is we've been paddling very hard for 20 years to ride that wave. So, there's no question that marijuana is more palatable now than it was, 10 or 15 years ago. We offer franchisees potential to invest in a cool brand kind of with, one toe in the water, which I think is where most entrepreneurs and investors want to be. We're a cool concept, and you can kind of dabble in that green space, and you don't have to, jump in with 2 feet. So, that's interesting. And, we've had people try to spin our brand over the years, and it hasn't been very successful for them. Opening a restaurant is hard. Opening a pot-themed restaurant is even harder. So, we feel like we've really carved out the niche over the last 20 years. And as long as we, stay true to our principles, add great people to our team, which is everything, it's all about the team, and produce excellent food, the sky's the limit for us.
So where's the brand headed? Nationally and even internationally?
Yeah. So, we're going to continue to add company stores because that's, we believe in our brand and what we're doing. And, we don't want our franchisees to be crash test dummies. So, we're going to continue to add, company stores as we grow. We're also going to add franchise partners in select markets that make sense. There's no doubt about it that, there's plenty of cities in the United States and beyond that deserve a Cheba Hut. And, hopefully we'll be there soon.
Thinking for the future. Seth, thank you so much for dropping in. I love that statement that you just made. We don't want our franchisees to be crash test dummies. Well put. Granted, this QSR Web podcast is not as fun a place as Cheba Hut, but we do appreciate your time and really wish you all continued success. And that's going to be all for this week's show. But please, everyone listening, come back next Friday right here on QSR Web to learn the icy truth about all things Dippin' Dots related when CMO Michael Barrett pops in for a chat about that frosty brand. Until then, have a monumental weekend and a profitable business week ahead.